Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today we need to give this almost 100-year-old vintage power hammer some attention. Really, this is a piece of history, but it's also a functioning and still used necessary piece of equipment too. Built in 1927, September 12th to be exact. Pretty cool deal here, but the issue we have going on today is the dies. And I've had this power hammer for just over a year, and I've been having trouble with the dies since I bought it. They don't really want to stay put. Now, I don't know if these are anything close to the original dies, probably not, very unlikely. And I don't know if they're even necessarily for this hammer. It had a double type key or shim system here. You kind of see that. And that's actually not original either. That's not how it's supposed to be. And furthermore, we've got a bigger issue here. Well, not a bigger issue, but another issue, and that is this die here, this bottom die, is clearly a two-piece construction. So a hardened and tempered or heat-treated steel plate is forge welded to the top of this of the main body of the die, and you can see how it's delaminating, it's coming apart. So obviously that's an issue too. Now this recent development here on the die kind of forced me to give this some attention, but I've been meaning to purchase a new set of dies for a while because these flat sort of dies, I believe they're called planishing dies. They're good for general forge work, flattening things down, reducing the dimensions of some stock. But when it comes to bladesmithing in particular, it's not as, as useful or precise in some regards when you're forging a bevel or different things like that. So I have a new set of dies that I'm excited to show you. Postmaster's gonna know who you are if you order very much steel and have it sent to the post office. So this box is relatively heavy. We got a couple of solid chunks of steel here. And as you can see, these are combination dies. There's a flat spot and then a chamfered spot, and this allows you to aggressively draw out stock a lot more than just a flat die. Now you'll notice that these have bolts here, and this is a set of interchangeable dies. So essentially what happens is these blocks get installed in the hammer, and then we can interchange or take off the actual surfaces of the dies here and put different ones on. And that should even allow me to build some very custom dies at some point in the future. I also went ahead and purchased the keys. They're called keys, not shims, for the hammer. And this is something you could make, but as you'll notice here, this is milled as you would want to do, and I don't have a milling machine available to me, so I just went ahead and spent the extra money and got these keys. And also, if I make some in the future, having a reference of what the originals are supposed to look like will also be helpful as well. All right, I'm curious to see Oops. All right, I'm curious to see if this resembles the dies that we just got. All right, so they have the dies marked N for the narrow end. That looks similar, but not. It doesn't have the chamfer here, the dovetail that these ones do. So I'm guessing that this die is not even for this hammer. But let's check. Let's get that dovetail cleaned out in the hammer on the ram there, and see how this matches up. That's not how it goes. Did I put the wrong key in? Maybe I did. I just assumed the smaller key was for the top, but I think that was an incorrect assumption. Maybe. That only wants to go in about a third of the way, but it looks like it makes more sense. It would go in further if there was if this was chamfered or rounded, if there was clearance. So let's go ahead and pull the bottom die out here. I just want to get them cleaned up enough to where I can see how things are going to fit. So yeah, vintage machinery is really neat, I think, in a lot of ways. It's not necessarily a more expensive option though. So this die set here with the keys cost me an eighth of the entire cost of the hammer when I bought it a little over a year ago. So pretty significant investment, but again, like I said, if you have a milling machine and some specs, you should, it's pretty simple to build these. I don't have a milling machine right now, and in the future when I do want to build something, then I'll have the dimensions to build it off. So that's kind of helpful too, but right now it's about me being able to use the power hammer to forge knives and stuff, so that's why I went with that route. Well, that dovetail doesn't match. Apparently there was some modifications done to the block here. I can't really verify that, but this does have some grind marks on it, so I don't know if this was wallowed out, ground out, because it doesn't have the same shape. So I wonder, you would hope this isn't the case, but I wonder if this block was modified to fit this die, because this die does not have the same dimensions or shape that this one does, the one that I got from Little Giant. So that could be what happened. There's some gappage down at the bottom here. That's not good. And this key does not fit. If I thinned it way down, it might fit, but it still doesn't address the lack of matching dovetail. So that's a little frustrating. I was hoping this would be more or less a plug and play, but neither die is gonna fit as is. So what to do? Okay, so looking at this a little bit more, I just stuck the old shim in here a little bit to kind of hold this die over. So if you can see here, what's keeping this die from coming this way is the corner. And you can see how these dies, this one needs to go over this way to line up with this. And my shim apparently needs to go on the front of the ram, which I thought that was backwards from the original, but I don't know. And it's very possible that this ram is backwards in the carrier. I don't think that's going to affect the function of the hammer, but this looks like if I grind this corner off here, I can get it to move over enough to line up with the top die and allow our key to fit in there and do its job. Well, we made a little bit of progress, but not nearly enough. Okay, well, I already screwed up because this radius is matching adequately, and I was putting the key in from this end. Oh yeah, it's moving over a little bit, looks like it's starting to fit. Well, the problem is the key goes in this end. So it fits like all the way, too much, and then this die is over that way, probably 1/16 of an inch now from where the top die is. So I went too far. I ground too much off. However, I think I can fix that with a little bit of shim stock. All right, so looking at this, I think this would actually benefit from a piece of 1/8 inch mild steel underneath. It's gonna raise this up a little bit and tighten that dovetail up a hair, because this key is not quite thick enough or wide enough to really pull all that slack out unless I drive it in further than it really should go. So I'm going to try that, and then maybe we can address some of the unevenness a little bit, but I think that's what happened. This got ground down too far whenever somebody was working on it. All right, well, this is a little thicker than 1/8 of an inch, but and a little wider than it needs to be, but I'll grind that down. This is why you this is why you have different bits of steel stock, things like that, because whenever you're working on a project, you just don't know when you're going to need some different materials like this. Take that dimension down. See what we have here. The dies line up here very nicely now. The only potential issue I see is that the block is only contacting the base here at a small point here. I wish I had put this spacer underneath before I ground that radius so aggressively. Alright, so this key's going to need thinned down here towards the thick end so that we can get more contact. You know, at least 75% contact is what's recommended along the length of the key here. And I can't show you exactly, but it's not really, that's starting to. Okay, it is, alright. Well, that's good. I'm gonna look at where it is scuffed here and use that as an indication as to where it needs thinned out so that we can try to get more contact across the length of the key. And that already feels better because it's not sloppy up here at the narrow end when I put it in there. And it was just catching down here. It's like it needed a little bit of a taper just to match the casting, I guess, maybe. All right, well, overall, I think they went on pretty well considering. This key I could drive out and thin a little bit so we can get it driven in over here the rest of the way. That's probably the thing to do. So go ahead and do that. But I wanted to show you that our piece of mild steel there, that is deforming nicely to help take up some of that slop underneath, so we've got a better contact between the die and the block. So that's encouraging. And when you run these, they sound real smart. They definitely sound snappy, like there's a good connection between everything, better than there was before. So I'm excited to use these. However, it's the end of the day, so we're gonna have to do that tomorrow. Waiting in great anticipation. Well, a little problem here. This key wants to slide up to the top here, and when it does that, it's not actually holding this. So we have to fix that somehow. All right, so we have the power hammer back up and running, which is great. We can forge ahead. So as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.